of just the random life. Remember what Socrates said in Plato's Apology, the unexamined life is not worth living. That's the whole point of an education, is to learn to examine the very principles upon which you make your decisions. And the older you get, the better you ought to be able to do that, theoretically. At 2b, we've mentioned it already, the power of the allegory, the power of the dialogues, the power of the Socratic method, which, and it takes us back to 3a, to Whitman's Song of Myself, passage 46-47. I hear you're asking me questions. I answer, I cannot answer. You must find out for yourself. Go back to Learn Strong and take a look at our comments on that powerful notion of the job of the teacher is to lead the student back to the student's own questions, to guide the student, but ultimately to ask questions, help the student ask questions of himself, herself, like, who are you, ontologically speaking? Or in the relationship to the cave allegory, where are you? We'll come to this one in a moment at 3b. At 3a, we began our series of comments by pointing out that Whitehead said that all of philosophy is a footnote to Plato, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. It's hyperbolic, but still, I think, quasi-true. We could make a long, long list of all the different influential thinkers. Aristotle obviously has to be mentioned here. His counter to Platonic ideas in his politics and in his ethics. Take a look at a picture of Raphael's School of Athens, that famous painting, where Plato and Aristotle are right dead center, and Plato is pointing kind of to the sky, holding his most metaphysical text, the Timaeus, and Aristotle is kind of doing one of these numbers like, dude, you need to just calm down a little bit. We need to be a little bit more of this world thinking. Aristotle's critique is powerful. The Neoplatonists, obviously we've mentioned Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations, Epictetus. The slave is a contemporary of Marcus Aurelius, who comes to the same understanding. It's a very Neoplatonist idea, as well as, of course, St. Augustine. We can also think about the critique of the Republic and the critique of this idea of the cave allegory in dystopian novels. Obviously, we have a number of them. Anthem, Ayn Rand's Anthem, The Giver comes to mind, as well as, of course, Brave New World, and any number of other kinds of 1984 comes to mind. These different kinds of critiques of this notion of trying to build or construct the ideal republic. You know, again, go back to what we said in our earlier lectures. Socrates is playing a game when he is trying to develop this ideal republic. He says the only way it'll ever happen, again, to go back to Republic 6 and then finally 7, he says the only way it'll ever happen is if the leaders of that republic are philosopher kings. And again, he defines those as those who have been able to finally get out of the cave. There are other thinkers that come to mind, from Kant and his great critiques, his 3 great critiques, to Nietzsche, to finally Freud, and any number of thinkers in between and beyond. At 3b, finally, well, now we can ask the big questions. Since you've been through this process, we can ask, let's just deal with 3. How about your education? When did it begin? Is it true you are your education? Is it true that education is a process of selection and deselection by individuals for you from your infancy and maybe even previous to your infancy on? Who were those people? And was that selection random or intentional? And why has it taken you so long to begin to ask the simple question, am I my education? And if I am, then what was my education? And how can I begin to take control of my education? For example, if I were to take the songs on your playlist right now, and I were to read the lyrics, Plato argues those lyrics represent who you think you are in some way. What would those lyrics say about you? I see some of you smiling. You'd have to maybe think long and hard a little bit about what that one is about. Let's take a second question. What is the value in your life? What has been the value of fear and pain? The value of fear and pain as it related to learning? Of course, foundational to 303 is the story of my telling how I taught my son how to ride a bike. Those training wheels, he didn't like them, but they saved him from falling. Of course, when we took those training wheels off, he was not ready to get on that bike. Why? Fear and pain. I told him, you're going to fall, it's going to hurt. Let's go. It's the way you learn to ride a bike. He didn't want to do it. He did fall. It hurt him. Then he was mad at who? Me. Because why? I had taken his training wheels off. That's the response of a child. The response of one who is finally leaving the cave is to recognize the people in your life who have taken off those training wheels deserve your love and your respect and your gratitude and thanks, right? Because they have committed what Wordsworth says in Tintern Abbey, little, nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and love. Go back to our comments on Learn Strong for that one. To what degree has that been influential in your life? And finally, this is an interesting question. In Plato's allegory of the cave, where are you? Because you can be one of three places. Either you're sitting in the cave, looking at shadows on a wall, thinking those shadows are absolutely real, believing the stuff in the first box is absolutely the realest thing you'll ever know. Or you can be going through the process of being dragged out of the cave, kicking and screaming, remember fear and pain, into the light of the sun, and of course being blinded by the light once you get there. Or, 3, you finally made it out of the cave, at least far enough to recognize that what was going on in the cave was in fact, that ain't real, not at all. And to that degree, you're ready to start thinking about how to go back into the cave and to be a light. Go back into the cave and to be an emancipator. Go back into the cave and to be an educator. And in the end, that's how the world becomes a better place. Well, this one is finished. I hope that you've enjoyed our inspection into Plato and Platonic thought and, of course, the great Socrates. Examine your life. It's one of the most important things you'll ever do. Thank you.